morning. How you guys doing? We good? The Huskies won yesterday, which some of you are like, will you stop talking about the Huskies? No, I just talk about things God cares about. So the Huskies won, the Cougars lost, all is right in the world, and it is good to be with you this morning. Happy winter. It is freezing out there, as we learned at Trunk or Treat yesterday, but hopefully also, can I just say thank you to those of you that hosted Trunks at Trunk or Treat? I love to be would you give it up for them? 70 trunks. I love to be the church. I love to be part of this church that when we go somewhere, it's good news. That's my prayer, that when people hear about New Life, talk about New Life, experience New Life first, because we are the church, they would say it's good news when they show up in my workplace. It's good news when they show up in my home. It's good news when they're doing an event. And so we did Hope Walks earlier this year, which is a walk to raise awareness for mental health of teenagers. Over 400 New Lifers showed up, 220 in this location. Yesterday, Trunk or Treat, 4,600 people in our community showed up because you helped create that space. The next thing coming up is a military Thanksgiving dinner. So if you're in here and you're in the military, first, I want you to know your church loves you. And if you're wondering, what are you going to do for Thanksgiving? Where are you going to go? This space is going to be open for you. All you need to do is sign up. I don't have a QR code, though, so sorry about that. You got a connection card. You can write Thanksgiving on the back if you want to eat. If you want to serve, you can write Thanksgiving on the back. I'll text you later this week saying, do you want to serve or do you want to eat? And you can tell me eat, because we all want to eat. But I'm so excited for today. We're in a series, Peace of Mind. And here's what we're doing. We're walking through what it looks like when Jesus enters into the conversation with mental health. Would you agree that mental health is right now the number one challenge our community is facing? Like, you look around, you talk to people, you say, this is number one. Studies right now are staggering when it comes to it. 60% of college students right now met the criteria for mental health conditions. That's 6 out of every 10. 84% of Gen Z says they've experienced burnout or feel like they are experiencing burnout. 75%, and that's a low statistic, of all visits to primary care physicians are for stress-related issues right now. Some studies move it all the way up to 90%. 19% of U.S. adults met the criteria in 1 year for an anxiety disorder. Would you say there's a problem? And our world is looking for an answer. They're longing for an answer. And I fear a lot of people are fighting in secret to try to figure out what's going on because there's some guilt, some shame, some stigma to it. But could we be the church that says, come as you are, and we think God's good enough and big enough to meet you where you're at? My hope is that as we look into what Jesus says, it would bring healing that the world can't bring. In fact, Jesus says this when it comes to mental health. He says, I'm leaving you with a gift, peace of mind and heart. The peace I give is a gift the world cannot give. So do not be troubled or afraid. Don't be troubled or afraid. As we've been walking through this series, we've been looking at what is the gift of transforming peace look like when it enters into your anxiety, your burnout, your stress, your worry, your relational wounds. And today we're looking at emotional moments. But before we jump into it, I just need someone who is willing to come up on stage real quick. Anybody? I just need somebody. Jonah, thanks for saying it. Come here. He hates this. He hates this so much. Okay. This is everything you've been wanting. You just have to do one thing. Ready? Move away from the instruments. I just need you to shake the bottle. As hard or as soft as you want, shake the bottle. You're in the splash zone, sorry. Shake it. Shake it. Yep, keep going however you want. Yep, there we go. Doesn't that feel good? Okay, thank you. Give it up for Jonah real quick. I want you to take 10 seconds, turn to somebody next to you, and tell them, why did water come out of the bottle? 10 seconds, do it. Go, go, go. Why did water come out of the bottle? Because he shook it, right? And those of you that said because he shook it, you're not wrong, but it's not 100% right. He shook it, but water came out of the bottle because water was in the bottle to begin with. Chocolate milk did not come out of the bottle. Wine did not come out of the bottle. This was not a Jesus moment. Coffee did not come out of the bottle. Dr. Pepper, the sweetest of the nectars, did not come out of the bottle. Water did. Here's what I know. The world is going to shake you. Your family's going to shake you. Your work's going to shake you. Your kids are going to figure out that one spot that only they know about. And they're going to push it until you shake. And something's going to spill out. My hope today is to look at what's going to spill out. I don't want to tell you if it's right or if it's wrong. I want you to go, what's inside that's going to come out when the stress shows up? And today my hope is that we can bring it to Jesus. Today we're talking about Jesus and emotions. And some of you said, good, I have so many thoughts about that. Some of you don't want to talk about it at all. I know this. You have 6 basic emotions, okay? Some of you would fight me. You'd say, I have 2. I'm fine and I'm hungry. I think you have more than that, okay? You have 6 basic emotions according to a test by the University of Alabama, Roll Tide. You will have sadness, joy, fear, anger, surprise, and disgust. That is the basic emotions of a human, and whether or not you know it, you are emotional. Ever had an emotional day, though? And I'm not talking about the day where you felt one emotion really strongly. I'm talking about the day where you felt all the emotions really strongly. I'm talking about your last trip to Disneyland, okay? Like, you know what I'm talking about. You go there and you pay for the tickets and you're like, sadness. You get there and you're like, joy. You walk into the space and it's surprise because it's so good. You see that grown adult man wearing matching clothes with another grown adult man and wearing Mickey Mouse ears, and you feel disgust. There's a moment you get hungry and you want the Dole Whip and you pay for it, you get a little angry, but then you eat it and it's joy. And then you want the turkey leg and you pay for it, you're a little angry and you eat it and it's joy. Then it's the churro. Pay for it, you're angry and you eat it and it's bloated. There's just emotions. And then you experience fear the moment someone says, let's go on It's a Small World. Because that is the ride from hell. And no, seriously, dolls are the international language of fear. And then they put you on the slowest boat in the world going through dolls singing at you the same song in their own language. It's terrifying. There's only been one other time I've seen somebody have all the emotions in one day. It was when Jenny's husband and I went to the 18-inning Mariners playoff game. And he had joy, followed by fear, followed by sadness, followed by surprise, we're still playing. Eventually there was disgust. And eventually he was angry because we know the Astros cheated somehow. But you're an emotional person. There's emotions in you. So today, as we talk about emotions, I want to have the same definition. So here's what I'd say emotions is. It's strong feelings that come from your circumstances, mood, past experiences, or relationships with others. And on Thursday night, somebody added to it, or conversation with yourself. Think about the emotions that you carry. Some basic things about emotions is emotions are good. We have emotions because God has emotions. They're real, they're powerful, but they're often unreliable. Emotions can cement relationships, but they can also be manipulated, which is why some of us, in fact, I'd fight most of us, walk in here with a little bit of emotional baggage. And I'm not talking about the thing that happened to you. I'm talking about the way you've been trained to process emotions, the way you've been formed to emote. I don't know who you are or where you're from, but I know there's different ways. I know that emotions are helpful indicators and horrible dictators. But when we're trained to use our emotions, we view them certain ways. Some people, instead of a dictator, they idolize emotions, and you are what you feel, and your feelings run and move everything that you do, which is great, except to be on the other side of that emotion is a lot. Some of us, it's not an indicator, it becomes the enemy. We grew up in a home where you don't feel emotion. Move past it, don't talk about it. To talk about it is weakness. To communicate it's weakness, but here's what I want you to know. You're gonna communicate it whether you use your words or not. Because all behavior is communication, and you're full of it, and it's gonna spill out eventually. Others of us, it's not the idol, it's not the enemy, it's an intruder. It's just gonna come in and you gotta deal with it and get it out because it's not real. But whether it's an idol, an enemy, or an intruder, it's not a good dictator. And today, I just hear, as I was thinking this week, and the stage is wicked slippery. I was thinking this week and praying, God, would you let me see emotions? God, would you let me see the emotions? And I don't know if God was like, here's some things, or it just became aware of it, and this is wet. And so is my butt, so sorry about that. But I had eyes for it this week, and I walked into rooms, and I saw people, and I was like, there's a lot going on underneath the surface. From classes here to Starbucks baristas to my own family to myself, I noticed a lot underneath it. And today, I know you come in with emotions, and you're doing important things, and you're raising families, and you're running businesses, and there's a ton going on. But can we remember that emotions are great indicators, not great dictators? That they're built to build connections, but a lot of us have seen them be the thing that have caused disconnections. That emotions have somehow wedged a gap into your marriages or your friendships or your relationships with your kids. That emotions that haven't been managed or dealt with well have caused some of this just tension in the process. And I know us, we're on different sides of the occasion. Some of us, we deal with our problems and our emotions. We overfunction and we just ruminate and think about it and go on and on and on and on and on. And some of us, we underutilize and underfunction our emotions. And it's like, I can't feel anything. But today, whatever that emotion is, my prayer is you can bring it to God. I remember about 2 years ago, there was a moment where I just felt like I couldn't get control. I'm a ruminator. Like, I'm not a stuffer. I want to feel the feelings. My wife and I get in fights because I want to feel the feelings and I want to know your feelings. And she's like, can I process my feelings? I'm like, yes, but can you do it now? And can I know it? And so I'll be like, how you feeling? How you feeling? How you feeling? Now she's like, now I'm angry because you're annoying. And I'm like, I'm okay now. I know how you feel. But I'm a ruminator, and I felt like I couldn't stop ruminating on emotions. And I felt like I was in rooms, but I wasn't there. Ever been there? Like you're in a room physically, but you're not there. Your brain is somewhere else. Your heart is somewhere else. I couldn't get it under control. On the outside, it looked fine. You would never be able to tell, but the closer you got, the more you're like, he can't settle. My wife was like, it's time to see a counselor. I was like, yes, ma'am. And so we started to see a counselor, and then we also saw a spiritual director, and throughout this process, they were helpful. But the most helpful conversation was with someone who said, David, my goal in life is that my head, my heart, and my feet would be in the same spot at the same time. That I'd be fully present in one spot, letting God's peace, not worrying about God's peace hitting me in the future, but letting God's peace inform my right now. The peace of God that transcends all understanding would be a part of my family and me and my relationship and my life. And it began a process to get healthier and to see what God would do with me. And as we thought about it, this verse came to mind. It's John 10:10. It says that the thief came, or the thief's purpose is to steal, kill, and destroy. And not to be too dramatic, but it felt like the emotions were stealing my ability to connect, killing my joy, and destroying my peace. I felt like in every relationship that I had, I could not go to the depth that I wanted because of that. But my purpose is to give them a rich and satisfying life. My hope for you is that your head, your heart, and your feet are in the same place at the same time, that you wouldn't feel like your joy is being stolen, destroyed, or killed, but that you would feel like in the midst of all your emotions, God was still giving you a rich and satisfying life. That term, rich and satisfying, depending on the translation, says life and life to the full, an abundant life. I just call it to be fully alive. And so here's my question for you. Can you be fully alive and experience all 6 emotions? Can you be fully alive and experience all 6 emotions? Can you be fully alive the way God intended and be angry? Can you be fully alive the way God intended it and be fearful? Can you be fully alive the way God intended it and have disgust in you? Say, I'd fight yes. In fact, I'd fight if our emotions are an indicator. Their whole design is to tell you whether or not you're fully alive. If they're a dictator, they're telling you you're not good enough. You are angry. You are disgusted. If they're an indicator, it's a call to come back to God. Look at this. Joy is feeling fully alive. It's the fully experience of feeling fully alive. Surprise is the unexpected reminders of life, whether there's life or you're unexpectedly reminded that this world on this side of eternity isn't fully alive. Fear is the desire to stay fully alive. I want to stay fully alive. Disgust is recognizing what's not right in someone, even if it's yourself, the thing that's going to keep them from experiencing the life that God has for you. And sadness is realizing that there's things in you or around you that aren't fully alive. then anger is a secondary emotion. It's never a primary emotion. It always comes from fear, disgust, sadness, or surprise. And it is the fight to stay fully alive. Your job is to let these emotions, when you have them, indicate you, I got to go back to God. You see Jesus do it. Jesus, fully God, fully man, walks this earth, has the full emotional experience. He has the full breadth of the emotions. You see him in Matthew 21. He's at the temple. He's there, and God, our God, the Messiah, our Savior, God in a bod is there, and he's angry from the disgust he feels that they've turned the temple into a marketplace. He's like, this is not the fully alive thing that this was made for you to be. This temple was a place to connect with God. The next thing you see is in Mark, Jesus is in the Garden of Gethsemane about to be betrayed. The next day he would be crucified on a cross. And it says this, my soul is crushed with grief to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me. And moments later he would sweat out blood, which clinically happens to people that are experiencing the deepest level of fear or stress or worry. Our God encountered this, and it was an indicator to turn back. What does he say? Not my will, but yours be done. If you could take this cup from me, do it. But I want to be fully alive and living the life you have for me. Jesus, riding the donkey into Jerusalem, feels compassion over the city. It says that he begins to weep because peace had been hidden from them in Luke. He sees a people that aren't fully alive, and it burdens him. And then in John chapter 11, Jesus is going to Mary and Martha's house, and what does he do? He's going to raise Lazarus from the dead, but before he goes and raises him from the dead, he stops. And it says Jesus wept. He experienced the emotion. What if Jesus is setting a model for us that we're not just supposed to push our emotions away, but we're allowing them to be indicators to point us back to the gift that God has for us? And on this side of eternity, we have to feel all six. Emotions are a good gift from God. They're meant to direct us right back. And so when we feel sad because we're in a fight with our family, it's not the full marriage that we thought we would have. It's an indicator to begin to trust God with the marriage. It's an indicator to begin to trust God with all that we have. Our job is to take those emotions, turn them back, because if we don't turn them back and we turn them out, which is our way of trying to get control, they'll develop into something. They'll either become walls or they'll become worries. Disgust, when it's not turned back to Jesus, turns into resentment. Bitterness, when it's not, anger, when it's not turned back to Jesus, turns into bitterness or hatred. Fear, when it's not turned back to Jesus, turns into anxiety, stress, worry. Sadness, when it's not turned back to Jesus, will eventually depress you, be pushed down, and you'll feel the depression. Joy, even, when it's not turned back to Jesus, will become self-serving. Surprise, you'll just have a heart attack. It's too much. But for you need to remember that your emotions are a gift and not a curse. They're an invitation to be brought back to God, to be reminded that God's in control, not to be overwhelmed that you don't have control. I love what Pete Scazzaro says. He says, ignoring our emotions is turning our back on reality. Listening to our emotions ushers us into reality. And the reality is where we meet God. Emotions are the language of the soul. They are the cry that gives the heart a voice. John Mark Comer says it this way. He says that your soul is built to scream at you when necessary. Slow down. Slow down. You are doing so many busy things. We need the healthiest version of you, not the busiest version of you. We need the most present version of you, not the most impressive version of you. We need the real you, not the one you want to present. My family and I, we recently stepped into a new level of life. We are minivan owners, which I know, you're like, you have arrived. We have. And when I got into the minivan, what I realized is the seat is made for kings. And so I sit back in my throne, and the seatbelt's all the way back here, and I've started this habit where I just don't reach back to get it, because that's what peasants do. No, I'm just kidding. I just forget. And so my car, what does it do? It goes beep, 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 which some of you are responsible and you respond to it. Me, I just tune it out, right? Like, ever been there where your car, it's just beeping at you? All it is it's all you need to do. But beep, 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 and eventually I don't even hear it until my 4-year-old gets into the car. And he's so much more aware than me. He sits in there, he has a line shot view of my dashboard. And before the beep even happens, he sees the little red guy with the no seatbelt on. He goes, "Dad, put your seatbelt on." Beep, beep, beep. "Dad, put your seatbelt." I can ignore him too, by the way. "Dad, put your seatbelt on." Beep, beep, beep. "Dad, put your seatbelt on." Beep, beep, beep. And I remember I just grab it and I'm like, this is just not that hard. It's just annoying. Can I be the 4-year-old in the back of your emotional minivan? Turn back to God. Your soul's screaming at you. We're anxious and worried and concerned. Some of the most successful people I know are the most emotionally constipated people I know. They're like, they just can't work it out. Would you get to a place where you slow down enough and go, "God, this is what's going on." Turn back to God. Beep, beep, beep. Turn back to God. Don't snooze on the alarm clock of your soul. What if you stepped into it and said, "God, what is going on in me?" And let those emotions be an indicator. Today, my hope is that we could answer this question of, how do I deal with how I feel? How do I deal with how I feel? And as you look through the Bible, the Psalms show you it the best. 150 Psalms. If you've never read them and you're trying to figure out how you feel, read it one a day and stop when you find one that sounds like you and just sit in it. But David says this. He says, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you, and lead me along the path of everlasting life." How do I deal with how I feel? You say, "Search me, O God, and know me. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you and lead me in a way everlasting." He just paints the picture right here. Search me is right this. Give your emotion a name. Give it a name. Actually, take a moment and name it. "God, I feel sad. God, I feel frustrated. God, I feel conflicted. God, I feel overwhelmed. God, I'm hopeful. God, I'm thankful." Take a moment and name the emotion. Find your space with it. Clinically, this is called emotional labeling. And emotional labeling, through studies, you realize that 2 things happen. Number 1, it reduces the intensity of the emotion. It actually, you have a moment, if you're like me, you're a ruminator, you take one problem and you think about it so many times, it starts to feel like 14 problems. Ever been there? And you're like, all of a sudden the world is crumbling and that life is crazy and my brain can't stop and I'm overwhelmed and I can't sleep and I wake up at night and I have to write notes places and try to figure it out, but I'm like, chaos. When you give it a name, it takes the 14 problems and brings it back to 1. You're able to go, "God, this is disappointment." And it provides clarity on where to go. If it's mentionable, it's manageable. So, "God, this is how I feel. This is what is going on in my soul." And then you got to do something with that. You say, "Search me, God, and know me." Would you know me? Would you look at the thing that's behind the disappointment? We need to look at what's behind the emotion, explore what's behind that feeling. Now, let me say, not every emotion you name needs a whole narrative. If you do that, you become unhealthy. But also remember, emotional pain is not random. It comes from somewhere. The consistent reaction actually needs to be addressed. Otherwise, it starts to build those wedges and build those walls, and all of a sudden you are either over-functioning or under-functioning, and all of a sudden there's just some distance between you and the people, and you end up in a place that you didn't want to be, when all you needed to say, "I'm sad and I think this is why." I had a moment this week where I was disappointed. And I remember that disappointed is a secondary emotion to sadness. And it was weird for me to go, "God, I'm just sad. Would you do something with that?" I'm not overly sad, but I'm feeling it. Take your emotion straight to Jesus. Whether it's a big thing or a small thing, we learn how to deal with it when we explore the emotion. Now, I need to say this. I am pro-counselor, pro-therapist. But I think we live in a counselor therapy culture where sometimes we only talk to the counselor and nobody else. We basically say this, search me, but don't know me. We invite people in to search us that never have to experience us outside of those walls. That's why I think it's so powerful that he says, search me, God, and know me, because earlier in that psalm, he says, you've examined my heart from afar. I can't get away from your presence. Anywhere I go, you're there. God, you know me so well. Our first step is we name it, we explore it, and then we bring it to Jesus and go, God, what do you want to do with this? Talk to Jesus about it. What's going on inside of you? What's happening? I was trained to pray my emotions away. I don't know if any of you were like that. I was trained that when I feel it, like, give it to God and he'll get rid of it. I don't think that's the invitation. I think the invitation from Jesus is to pray with that emotion, to pray through that emotion, to let that indicator move you to connect to the Creator. Whether it's joy and you're like, I want to pray with joy. Whether it's sorrow, you want to pray with sorrow. Whether it's depression, you want to pray with depression. David says this in Psalm 42, why are you downcast, O my soul? Why so disturbed within me? We don't need a fake version of you. God doesn't want to deal with a false version of you. God can't connect you to him if you're just giving him the fake stuff. Bring him the real stuff. Pray with the emotion and pray through the emotion. God, search me and know me. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you. That's the one that I think why we get worried sometimes. It's like, if I open the door, God, would you change me? He's just going to dump it all on you. Here's everything wrong. No, but God's a good dad. Like, I got 3 kids. I have Sadie, Sam, and Ruby, and 2 of them, man, I got a list of things they should change. Ruby's 10 months old. I haven't figured it out yet. She just needs to sleep. But there's things in them I'm like, I love so much in you, but there's some stuff I would like to change. But I'm a good enough dad that I know if I dump all that on my 7-year-old daughter, I'm going to be paying for a lot of counseling later. And I want to look at her and go, hey, sweetheart, I love you. I got one thing. I think it'll help. I think you'll be happier and more peaceful. I think your relationships will be better. I handle one thing at a time. God's not a bad dad. He's a good dad. If I do that for my daughter, he's going to be way more gentle with you. Invite you into a full life of peace. Search me and know me. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you and lead me in a way of everlasting life, the full life, a life where I experience all that you have. And that's where you say, God, would you change it or would you channel it? Would you take me? Would you change the stuff in me? Would you channel it to something more peaceful? Would you redirect it back to you? Here's all I am. And today, like, I don't want to just be up here and pretend like I got it or tell you vague stories. Or I want to address the fact that I know there's heaviness in this space. There's walls in relationships. There's loss and there's pain. Some of y'all are feeling so many feelings, you don't know what you're feeling. Some of you haven't felt a feeling in so long, you don't know where to start. 2 years ago, when my wife and I started to have those conversations, I started to journal, which is either a really good thing or a really bad thing, or I'm on a mission trip. But I wrote this, and I want to share it with you. I wrote, I tend to wait before I sit still. I wait until life gets too busy, until I feel pressure, till I get stressed out. I wait until anxiety takes my breath away. I wait until I get caught in a cycle of achieving. I wait till I feel lonely. So here I am, anxious, like tight chest anxious, tired, like I need a retreat that's nowhere in sight, tired, lonely, like I'm unaware I know myself lonely, but I'm doing fine. Like actually fine, it's the most confusing feeling. There's just been a lot. There's been a lot that's happened. I feel like I've just been taking care of people. Sometimes it's carrying their emotions and sometimes it's carrying their work. There's just been a lot. I can't find rhythm, and I want it. I can't find rest, and I want it. I can't hear Jesus clearly, and I need it. I just need breath. I just want clear friends. I got tons of people, but I need my people. I want something new. I want something different. But I also like where I am. There's just a lot going on in me. I can't be the only one. If you're here, that's you. I want to invite you to a full life where your head, your heart, and your feet are in the same place at the same time, where peace flows into your relationships right now, not later, but right now, where God meets you where you are, and you pray with emotion, through emotion. You don't pray it away. This week, would you be honest with yourself, and would you be honest with God? Maybe it'll be beautiful and wonderful and awesome, and I hope that. But maybe it'll be real and raw. I challenge you, would you set an appointment? Set a time. You set it for everything else. When you go to work, when you're gonna meet with your friends, when you're gonna go play this, when your kids' games are, when all this, would you set in a moment with Jesus? Say, search me and know me. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you and lead me to the everlasting life where peace is overflowing. Would you bow your heads with me? Today, maybe you're here and you've never had a chance to say yes to Jesus, and this is your space. This is your time. In the quiet and the still of your spot, would you just say, Jesus, you're Lord. Jesus, I don't want to carry it on my own anymore. I don't want to try to take care of these emotions. I'm tired of pushing people away, pushing myself away, getting lost. I'm going to trust in you. And maybe you're here and you've been following Jesus, but you just shut off, and the emotions have either turned down or they turned way up, and you just can't hear the alarm clock or the beep saying, turn it over to God. This is a space that you can do that. So, Father, thank you. Thank you for this room. Thank you for what you're doing. Would you be made famous in the way that we love people? Would you give us peace as we process through all the things that is life? Praise in your name. Amen.